Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Trek Canon. So, today we're going to be doing an examination of my boy, the cunning, the devious, the psychotic lore. So, if you guys read the quote at the beginning of the episode, I wanted to basically ask a question. I wanted to pose a question. And the question is, would you end up knowing someone better having experienced them or having referenced them? So there's many there's a lot of thought that goes into a name when a person is doing their art, when a person is doing literature or something like that. Now, sometimes there may be situations where the name ends up fitting the characteristics of that person, or sometimes it may be that the name was derived because of the characteristics of that person. So I don't know which one it was with lore, but just like the definition of lore is basically, um, he lived with the colonists. Now, I wanted to figure out in my examination of lore just why he was so different than Data. Why he was so different from his younger brother. Now, so let's get into a little bit of the history first of Lore, the character. Now, for those of you who don't know who Lore is, I'll leave links in the video below to some of the episodes that he was in. I believe it was like 4 episodes that he was in, but maybe 5 or 6 in total that he was um, mentioned in or referenced in as well. Uh, right off the right off the back of my head, I'll say what Silicone Avatar. He wasn't in that one, but he was referenced. The episodes that he was in was Descent 1 and 2. He was in Data Lore. He was in Brothers. So, um, and I believe he was referenced in one more episode. I believe with Julia Taylor. But I'll get into all of that, I guess, right now. So, Lore's family. Lore has two older brothers. One of them was called B4. The other one was a disassembled prototype called Prototype, I believe it was. Um, he has a younger brother, Data, and a biologically biological brother that's also younger, who was featured in the Picard series, and this is who he is right here. Um, he has Dr. Nguyen Soon, which is his creator or father. You have Juliana Soon, featured here, who was Dr. Nguyen Soon's wife, and she was part of the development of data and programming of data and lore. You have Juliana Tainer, which is the mother of Lore also, and this is her Nguyen Soon type android body. Now, Lore belongs to the Nguyen Soon or the Soon type androids, and I've named a few of them there. He has a niece also named Lao. All right. Now we could get into his extended family and everything like that. His grandfather and the guy who tried to take his body in season 1. Him, who, uh, who, uh, who else? We could go into the Soons that was responsible for the augments in Enterprise. They was already. Have you guys ever noticed that either the Soon family has outstandingly strong uh, DNA to whereas all of the descendants, brothers, everything look exactly alike? Or I wonder if there was something happened, whereas because I think his name was Eric Soon. He was into genetics and everything like that. Probably did something to whereas all of his offspring always will look like him, and his offspring will have the genetic disposition to make any type of android, any type of life form that comes from them look like them as well. But I guess I can include Dr. Zimmerman in that too. But anyway, so let's get back to lore. Now, lore was assembled on the planet Omicron Theta. Now, Dr. Nguyen Sung and Juliana Sung, they went over to Omicron Theta as part of the colonists that settled there, a small group of colonists. Now, Dr. Sung decided to go there because he could get away from the prying eyes of the Federation and the ridicule and everything like that, because he wanted to create, and this is important, a positronic brain. Now, when anybody hears a positronic brain, they think of a brain that works on positrons. No, it's not like that at all. Basically, just to make it as simple as I can for the video, all right, it is a type of android brain that closely mimics the synapses of a human brain. All right, so this is necessary in a Star Trek world to create what they call a sentient AI life form. But there's other androids who fall into the category, but we're not talking about them. Now, um, Lore spent time amongst the colonists, all right? And at some point, we know from canon that the colonists began to resent and fear Lore. Now, let's talk about that because when Data came online, and I'm going to use Data as a lot for a reference in this because, again, Data and Lore um, are of the same design, but they have different positronic type brains, and I'll get into that too. But um, but for the purposes of this video, consider them they're yin and yang, but by design identical. Now, um, Data when he came online, and even for a long time in the Next Generation, he exhibited almost childlike um, wisdom or experience when it came to a lot of things. All right, as outstandingly smart in all of the data and things that Data could reference, he still, as far as his experiences, how he handled situations socially, everything like that, was still juvenile. All right. Now, if we think about that, we can assume that Lore was the same way. That here you have an android who's super strong, who's super intelligent, who man reflexes, like just everything about him is just super when it compares to your average human. Now the thing is that Lore, he started off with emotions. All right, Dr. Nguyen soon programmed emotions into him, and pretty advanced emotions into him at that. But the thing is that these emotions and the things that came from him were still juvenile. So if you think about it, you almost have a situation of somebody like Charlie X, somebody who's extremely powerful, right? But is juvenile, and I know I'm keep using that, or I should say immature, right, more accurately, in their thought process, all right, in the way that they handle these emotions, all right. So now of course there's going to be accidents, him not realizing how strong he is at certain times, or um, doing things that would cause the colonists to start to fear him. Think of that episode where Data lost his memory in the Next Generation, where he was on that planet with the pre-industrial society, and just his basic knowledge and recollection of just how elements are supposed to work, and how to deal with the radiation issue that they was having on their planet. Think of how the villagers started to fear him, and Data displayed no emotions. You know what I mean. They even went so far as to attack Data with the belief that they killed him. All right, so think of basically the same thing happening with Lore, but in Lore's situation, he's able to build resentment. He's able to build hate. He's able to experience a lot of these negative emotions that Data didn't have to experience. Now, think of think of that for a second. You Here it is. Lore probably started off, and there's no indication in canon that this was the case, but Lore probably started off, trying to be helpful and, you know, all of those types of things, and maybe through accidents, maybe through his ego, maybe through the fact that he probably started off with a psychotic mentality. But again, they ended up fearing him. Now, what ends up happening is that Lore ends up contacting. Now, I've always been curious as to how Lore ended up even finding out about the crystalline entity, or being able to develop a communication, even as rudimentary or whatever, with this entity, to whereas he could lure the entity or any type of thing like that. They never really discussed that. We just comes to the fact of, okay, lure got this crystalline entity to come over to the Omicron Theta planet and destroy all life. Now, sometime before that happened, Dr. Soong and or the colonists disassembled Lore, all right, and they left Data pretty much out there. Now, when in the episode Data Lore, the Enterprise ends up taking Data back to his home planet, and they end up running across Dr. Nguyen Soon's one of his old hidden labs where Data was put together and developed, and they end up putting together Lore. Now, the thing is that we find out Lore can use, right, pretty early on, is that Lore can use contractions, can't, won't, things of that nature, and Data can't. We all know this. Now, the thing is, in the episode Brothers, I'm gonna be jumping around a little bit as far as the episodes go, but try to bear with me. In the episode Brothers, Dr. Nguyen Soon had recalled Data to the planet via signal so that he could install an emotion chip that he made specifically for Data. However, again, spoilers, but y'all know how I roll. But Lore ends up receiving that same signal and uncontrollably coming to the same world. Now, when Data ends up getting a emotion chip, we find that even with the emotion chip, he wasn't able to use contractions, and Lore still was able to use contractions. I'm not saying Data had the emotion chip after that episode. We all know what happened after that episode, but later on, I believe in Generations, when he actually installed the emotion chip, he still wasn't able to use contractions. Now, that brings us to the design difference between Data and Lore's brain, and I think that this may be the root of what that is. Now, their two brains are, although positronic, operate on different discriminators, as I say, type discriminators. One is a L type and one is a R type. And I believe Lore has the L type and Data has the R type. I may be wrong. If I am, I'll put it right here. But it could be that that little small difference between their positronic brains not only accounted for Lore being able to use and master contractions, but may be the issue for his issues with his, getting along with biologicals, or it could be his experiences. Now, a lot of people say, well, Trek, Data has the experiences of the colonists as well, but there's two main differences in the way Lore is interpreting that um, information from the colonists, and Data is interpreting that information from the colonists. And it goes back to the very definition of their names. All right. What is the difference between experiencing an event, all right, or reading about an event? And we can go so far as to say reading about that event from a person who experienced that event. All right. So, in other words, what am I saying? I'm saying that Lore actually lived among these colonists. He experienced them day to day. He's seen them not only when they were trying to look good for the recording computer or for the log entry or anything like that. He's seen them at their worst. Maybe when some of them were drunk, or maybe when some of them were arguing with fellow colonists, or maybe when some of their dark sides they couldn't hide anymore, or some of their prejudices or or things, or bigotry, which we've seen so much from humans in towards AI throughout all of Star Trek canon. Maybe these things were the catalyst for him starting to hate biologicals and deciding, you know what, I'm just going to kill all of them. I'm going to kill everything that got to do with biological humanoids. Now, we end up leaving, Laura ends up leaving Data on the planet with Dr. Nguyen Soon. And the next time we see him is in the episodes Descent 1 and 2, where he's trying to experiment with the Borg to give them, well, experiment with the Borg that were disconnected from the collective during the events of iBorg, or to basically get the Borg to come under his command. He's manipulating them. He's torturing them. He's what you call it when you're just mutilating them. And so his thought process is he's trying to turn them 100% artificial and give them a positronic brain. Now, one of the things he ends up doing in this episode, which I think is pretty ingenious, but I wouldn't put it past a Soon type android, is he ends up modifying the emotion chip that he stole that was meant for Data and transmitting that emotion causing signal to Data, but only in a negative way. And we still see the Data can't use contractions. All right. Now, Lore ends up getting into a fight with his brother for the second time, and he's eventually, put down. Now, the thing about that is that the last thing he said to Data was, "I love you, brother," you know? And if you really look at the appearances that Lore made in Trek Canon in his 4 episodes, all right, you'll notice that when he accidentally killed Dr. Nguyen Soon, he felt that. He felt, oh man, it's my dad. Of course, he snapped back out of it and turned crazy again and went. But when he was faced with the prospect of never seeing, of not being alive, not experiencing the universe, not carrying out with his plans, it wasn't any of that that he decided to speak upon. He decided to speak on, let his brother know, hey, you know what, despite all of this that I've done to you and all of this, I don't really, it's not my fault. And even if it is, man, I love you, brother. You know what I mean? So Lore to me was a dynamic character and a tragic character as well. So there's, for anybody who is not familiar with Lore, I highly recommend you guys go and take a look at them again in the episodes from the Next Generation. I believe the first one was Data Lore, then it was Brothers, and then it was Descent 1 and 2, and get to know his extended family, and stuff like that. So let me see if there's anything that I missed. All right, so I guess in closing, I wonder what you guys think. Um, was Lord justified in his expression of, I don't like biological humanoids? Um, do you guys think that it's more of a difference between Data and Lore than just the L and R type, phase discriminators? There was a time when Data became, start acting a little bit like Lore. I was, remember the episode, but they got possessed by spirits, from a penal colony. Okay, let's not get into all of that. But what do you guys think of how the writers name them, as far as one experiences the colonists and one reference the colonists? Let me know which one of those particular situations you guys think would be more influential on the forming of a person's personality, all right, or even an AI's personality. So thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't, and ring the bell for any future content. And remember, 300 subscribers, uh, a live watch of an episode of the Next Generation, the Enterprise, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, whatever you guys want to do, but leave the recommendations down there, all right? And look forward to for the review and part 3 of the Jem'Hadar versus the Ngojin Super Soldiers. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, peace, recycle, and say to whales, you guys be cool as always. Thanks.